Hello, I'm Bill Coons, the Artistic Director of Shaker Bridge Theater, and we're here today to talk a little bit about the next play we'll be producing, which is called Heisenberg by Simon Stevens, and I'm here with the two actors who are in the play, Carey Urban, Craig Brown. I've got them both up here from New York City just in time for a snowstorm. Okay, Heisenberg. Tell me about the title. What or who is Heisenberg?
He's a German scientist who established a principle in 1927 called the uncertainty principle.
And is he part of the play? Is he one of the characters in the play, or?
Nope, not at all.
Uncertainty is, that's for sure.
Oh, all right. So it's, but why is it named Heisenberg?
Well, I think it derives from this concept of not being able to follow. If you're very focused on something, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're unable to follow where it's going. So yeah. I think that relates to these two characters not seeing where this odyssey will lead them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the uncertainty principle, I've got to cheat on this because I failed physics in high school at least once, and this is the second play in a row I'm doing that is based on a theoretical physics principle. I don't know why, but anyway, you cannot simultaneously establish the velocity and the position of a subatomic particle. To determine either the velocity or the direction, you have to shine light on it, which adds photons that collide with the particle, which alter either the velocity or the direction. So the act of observing the particle changes the particle. Do people need to know that to watch this show?
I dropped out after the seventh word, so I don't think they need to know that.
No, but I only think that it will satisfy people's curiosity to know why it is entitled that way.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I find most interesting about this play is that the act of observing another person changes that person. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is why he uses the title Heisenberg, because he's just using it as a way to give structure to this wonderful love story between two people who would normally never have gotten together or connected in any way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's in one sense you could call it a May-December romance. I know one
more like a July.
December romance, right? So, in a nutshell, what's this play about? In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Wow, that's very difficult to put this play in a nutshell because it is so surprising along the way. Yeah. And the incongruity of these two characters, as you said, connecting with one another in a very real way. This, from the start, doesn't look feasible. That's not possible. Right. They're so different.
Yes. Yeah.
And here you have a guy who has found out has found that it's okay to be alone somehow. He's come up with a construct of himself where he doesn't rely on anyone, he doesn't have any expectations, and he has a regimen. She, in fact, accuses him of being habitual, a raging, what was the phrase he used?
Psychopathic raging monster of it.
Yeah. So he has everything down to a T, and he likes the hermitage he lives in, the solitudinous life that he has, the ritualistic going to the job, walking through London, sitting on benches, being by himself. And he's found that he could live this way. It's okay, it's not great.
Well, and he has lived this way for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously that changes. That's what this play is about how these two people change.
Oh, momentously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like to say that in this play, a woman plants the kiss on the neck of a complete stranger, and what happens next is what this play's about.
Yeah. Yeah, because that doesn't actually happen in the play.
Right.
It's everything that happens after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
It's a stage direction at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. And Simon Stevens likes surprises, and there are lots and lots of them in this play. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So no one needs to brush up on their quantum physics
Not at all.
to enjoy this play. I
Very
mean,
oblique reference. in a lot
yeah,
of
the
ways.
principle becomes kind of a construct for this play about human emotions, about people actually connecting with one another in ways that neither one of them could have imagined that they would do. Yeah. So who are the characters that you play, the two of you?
Well, I play Alex Priest, and playwrights, they have that clever way of, titling plays and titling the actors, the parts, the roles. Alex Priest, who's a guy that's just lost everything, that every person in his life who was important when he was quite young. Before he reached the age of 20, everyone in his family was gone. They had all passed away. And then he had one relationship in his 20s where he fell in love, or his concept of love, and that woman broke off the engagement in the late 50s. So since then, he's been this guy in the cave, in his own cave.
Then who's your character then?
I play Georgie Burns. She's an American woman who's living in London. She's living on her own, and she's a bit socially inappropriate in a few ways.
I think it would be safe to say that.
Yeah, and
She doesn't
has-
accept too many conventions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely marching to her own drummer. Somewhat free-spirited.
Right?
Has probably a fairly checkered past. We don't really. It's hard to put your finger on Georgie.
Right. I think she would like to be
Yes.
the kind of person that's hard to
Yes.
touch in a certain way. What is it that you think the audience will like about the characters that you play? Because one of the things that fascinates me about this play is it's a beautiful love story with all of these surprises and obstacles, and you find yourself hoping that these two will actually connect, and in a life-affirming way, they do at the end. So these are characters that you're rooting for. What is it that you think the audience will like about the characters that you play?
They're fascinating characters.
But specifically about Alex, what is there about him that the audience will like, do you think?
Well, I think they'll like his veracity. He's an honest man. He lives without any pretense. He has no agenda. There's no hustle in him whatsoever.
Okay.
He's a totally authentic person.
Yeah.
And I think people want authenticity for themselves. They want to find the truest version of themselves. So I think the audience will connect
Yeah.
with that quality alone.
Yeah, okay. What about for Georgie? What?
I think Georgie has courage. I think she's a courageous person, and I think she's unconventional
Yeah.
in a way that can be. People could potentially sort of have a catharsis experience through her.
Something refreshing about someone who
Yeah.
just hurtles over the system
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, and in many ways throws caution to the wind.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that, in terms of what both of you are saying, is that these are two characters who are in some way isolated from society. They really are. And there's no reason they should ever find a way to be together.
Except for Georgie being Georgie, she finds a way. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Which is really a fascinating thing about this. Now, Simon Stevens, the playwright, also wrote The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
He adapted it for the
Yeah.
stage, yeah.
So when The Curious Incident was on Broadway, I think it was 2 blocks over, also on Broadway, was Heisenberg. So he had 2 plays on Broadway at the same time. Not bad for a guy who's 43 years old, who has written, I don't know how many plays he's written, but he's had 34 of his plays produced.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw his 3rd one in London
Wow.
it was about probably 12, 13 years ago at the Bush Theatre, which is a wonderful theater in London, a play called Christmas. And it's filled with surprises, but it's also a play about kind of the resilience and the adaptability of the human spirit in some way, which I think a lot of his stuff is about in some way. So you find yourself rooting for these people because you find yourself caring about them really quickly, I think. Yeah, because of their authenticity, for one thing. I think it's a great way to put it. What does,
Their personalities are really, if you turn a magnet so it's not coming together.
Right, right.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this play, they're diametrically opposed to one another in every way. Character, personality, way of being. One guy's a hermit and she's Mrs. Gregarious of the world. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, and I mean, if drama's about anything, it's about people confronting obstacles to what they want.
Sure.
And there are so many obstacles in this play from page 1. And you start to learn about these people in watching the way they confront these obstacles.
Yeah, their behavior, yeah.
and their clumsiness in doing it.
Right. But then again, it's the Heisenberg principle. So if you're watching something really closely, really observing it closely, there's no way to tell what direction it's going in.
Right.
There's no way to tell. So the audience watching you will not be able to tell what direction all of this is going to go in.
Yeah. And it goes a lot of different places in 6 different, actually, very different scenes.
Yes. Yeah, I want to make sure that we don't give away any of what happens in here because it's really surprising, really surprising. I mean, starting out with one stranger kissing another stranger, that's the start. I think in one sense, this play for me gets to be about the human capacity to completely astonish one another. I mean, there are things that you two do that are they go beyond being surprising.
Yeah.
They're revelatory in a lot of ways.
They're life-changing for
Yeah,
each other.
absolutely life-changing, right.
Unpredictable in their responses to one another.
Well, it's uncharted territory for them.
Yeah.
They're going into a part of life that they've never been in before.
That's right.
It's they're swimming and they don't have a life preserver on.
Yeah.
Or a
With
user
it.
manual.
Or a user manual, right, yeah. Right. Are there any roles that either of you have played that you would still call like a favorite role or something that still stays with you?
Oh my God, there's so many.
Yeah. But is there one that still, like if I fed you a line, you would immediately know the line that comes back?
Well, yeah, I mean, most of the Shakespearean roles I've played, I would recognize
Right.
any line from them.
Right.
Yeah, and some of my favorites among those are Imogen from Cymbeline.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Viola from Twelfth Night. And then I have to say Sally Bowles in Cabaret is one of my all-time favorite acting experiences.
Wow, okay, yeah. Craig, any for you?
Well, the first one that popped into mind was Proof, but then I thought a play that I did, I think 2 or 3 years ago, Other Desert Cities by Robbie Bates, where I played this retired, very powerful, ex-movie star, powerful Republican
Right.
in a fascinating play. I'm sure you know it very well.
Yeah, we did it
Yeah, but I love that
2
role.
or 3 years ago, yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. Yeah, great, okay. I could go on with this for hours and hours, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to remind all of you that Heisenberg opens at Shaker Bridge Theater on the 22nd of this month. Hope to see you there. Thanks.